And we're back for another week of Late Night Parents. This is Ted Hicks. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Latest blogs, wikis, podcast. And for those of you that like Facebook and Twitter and all that other stuff, you can find it there, latenightparents.com. Across from me is Richie V.
Teddy Ted. What's going on, brother? What's going on,
man? What's going on with you?
Not much. Just here we are, another wonderful Sunday evening. Another weekend almost done. Wrapping it up. Talk about what's going on. That's it.
I know. Big shout out to Brian Graves, who's handling the boards. We didn't know if he was going to be handling the boards when we walked in.
I thought we were going to handle it.
And I know you were equipped to handle the boards,
well,
but nowhere near,
not like Brian.
Nowhere near the excellence of one Brian Graves.
There he goes.
You know how you just lay it on?
As he pulls out the shovel, he's like, all right, y'all.
Yeah, all right, now. Back up off me now. Before we get started, it's Veterans Day.
Yes, to all the veterans out there and families of, but especially those who have served our country, thank you very much for your service. It is what makes our country what it is. It gives us the opportunity to rant and rave and have discourse and discussion and disagreements and still be able to exist or coexist with each other.
Don't know. You see all the superpowers, I believe, in France right now for the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of World War
One. The end of World War One.
The end of World War One.
Yes. The war to end all wars. The Great War. And that didn't exactly last too long.
Right.
Because people just can't get along.
No.
And there are some who want to be maniacs and tyrants. So that's how that went, right?
I think so.
I know. Any veterans in your immediate family?
Dad is a veteran. Dad is a veteran. Thank you, Dad, for allowing me to be here, and also for your service, and also because of him, Rich, and I'm not sure if you noticed or not.
Uh-oh.
I have my USAA membership because of him.
Because of him.
Because of him.
You know, I should inquire as of this.
You should. I remember I was telling you about this.
I should inquire. I have to get all the details because my father was a veteran. Served, I believe it was also Air Force. I believe he was a radar operator in Korean War.
Yes.
I should look into it.
You should. You know why? And this is not a promo now.
No,
we're not getting a check.
This is information that we know and then just passing along.
I know a lot of people like to say, oh, you're getting side payments, so all the community radio stations are like, you're not supposed to be doing that.
Nope. No, nothing at all.
Big shout out to 1240 AM WGBB. So, Rich, I'm gonna tell you like this.
Okay. Oh, here it comes.
No. I called up.
Yep.
USAA.
Yep.
And each time I say USAA, I'm gonna just throw in an additional A. So, called up, logged in, verified a few things. Right. Boom, boom, boom. Car insurance dropped dramatically.
Really? Now, what did? Again, this is not a commercial, but
no. It could be.
Asking questions. No, it's not.
It's an infomercial for them.
What did you have to supply to them?
Well, to them tomorrow, I'm going to supply this podcast to them and tell them.
Now we can get the promotional discount.
Yes. All I had to do is provide Dad's information.
Okay.
And, the time he served.
Right.
And whether it was honorable discharge or not.
Okay.
And it was just like bling, 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 bling.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, in our other lives, that was one of the first time, well, not one of the first times, but two-factor authentication.
Yes.
Whenever you log in to their site, you could log in and you can just log out. 10 minutes later,
log back in again.
Log back in.
And re-authenticate.
And re-authenticate. So, no, it was just 1, 2, 3. I would say for you, for one, because I use them for car and for home.
Okay.
The cost went down so much. It's scary.
Really?
Right off the top, $2,300.
Down?
Down.
What?
Down.
And that's combination home and auto.
Right.
Yeah, I will be getting that information so that I can make that call,
Down.
make that quote. And listen, you had one of the major players.
Yes.
And
down. So I'll just leave
that.
it there. You know. Hey, before we get into some of this heavy stuff and we talk about voting, I want to share a story with you.
Yep.
Last week, was it prior to the show? Yeah, last week prior to the show, I forgot to mention to you, we were in the garage.
Uh-oh.
And my wife says to me, that freezer that's right there has mold on it. I'm like, it's not mold. It's just dirt.
On the outside?
On the outside.
It could be anything on the outside.
I said, it's dirt. It's dusty in there. We
Right.
swept up.
It's a garage.
It's a garage.
Right.
I want to let you know we had that freezer for 20 years.
Okay.
20 years, no issues with it.
Of course not.
And guess what? She browbeat me to the point, Rich, that we went to the store. I won't tell you which store because it'll really sound like, you know, we're doing promotions. And unless they're cutting us checks and sending something attention to Brian Graves, we're not going to mention any other providers.
Any other
in the show.
big box stores.
Right.
Okay.
Big shout out to Verizon. Thank you for all that you guys do.
Yes.
Okay, Rich, I got to tell you, went to the big box store.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom. Came home, did the swap.
Right.
But in the back of my mind, I'm saying there's nothing wrong with this freezer.
Nothing wrong with the freezer.
So I called the village the next day because you got a call for bulk pickup.
Right.
Small freezer, not
a big one. Right. This is a chest freezer.
You can only call them between the hours of 7 a.m. and 2:15 p.m. Eastern time. Rich, can I tell you I called 4 times, no one picked up the phone?
Yes, I'm sure.
I got the voicemail. The voicemail specifically says, if this is a bulk pickup, do not leave it on voicemail. Call back.
Okay, they need to speak to a person to coordinate the pickup.
Rich, I got so tired of calling them. I took the freezer. I put it on the curb.
Yeah.
I clicked my heels together 3 times
And it
and
was
spun
gone.
around, and it was gone.
Someone has a perfectly good working freezer.
Someone has a perfectly...
So now, here's the big question.
Go ahead.
Did you clean up the exterior before you put it out front?
I did not. I wouldn't dare. I would not dare.
I would have put a nice, shiny, clean
You
looking
know,
freezer right there.
no way.
Just so someone could walk by and say, does that really need to be out front?
Does there really need to be? Boom. 1, 2, 3 picked up and gone.
So that's a nice new freezer in the garage.
Yeah. And, you know, I was going to take it to the next level and say to the missus that there was nothing wrong with this. But since I didn't really want to hear you anymore talk about this.
You're picking and choosing your battles. Okay, I get it. I understand. Totally. You have to, say, okay, you win, no problem. I'll just outlay another few $100 that I didn't need to.
Right. But it's okay. It's okay. Rich, got a question for you. General question.
Okay.
Why does it seem that everyone seems to beat up on the millennials? Because I know we beat up on them.
We beat up on millennials. You know, that's a good question. And my more recent response when I hear people picking on millennials is that, millennials didn't raise themselves.
It's true.
They were raised by the generation before them.
True.
And if you happen to be in that generation before them and you're picking on them, it's your fault. No, no one just comes into the world, and especially when you get to assign specific behaviors and opinions and things like that to a group. It's how they were raised.
Okay. But when you were that age, when I was that age, when Brian was that age, we wanted to have our own.
Yes.
We didn't want to share.
That was our generation.
We
were me generation. Well, I was more tail end or beginning of it, but that was me generation.
We wanted to own.
Right.
We wanted to be providers. We weren't looking for any handouts. We weren't complacent with living in mom and dad's or grandmom's basement. With spending, I don't know, $7 on guac sauce.
And thinking it's okay. But you also, so when did you get your first job?
Summer job or jobby job?
Both.
Summer job was... Are we talking about delivering newspapers? Or
you can count that because, what
was that, like 12?
Okay.
13? And my first summer job, real actual summer job, like I jumped on the train.
Yep.
You
14. Got a legit paycheck.
14.
When
I can get the working papers.
Right. And you did. As soon as you could get your working papers, you went and got them.
Oh, yeah.
And shortly thereafter, you went out and got a job.
Right.
A real job.
A real job.
Sort. Didn't bleed around, didn't sit around.
No.
Same thing.
Come on. Proof is in the pudding. And I say that because I know your sons.
Yes. Yes, you do.
I've seen them grow up.
Yep. Yes, you have.
So, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
No, thank you. I'm just half the apple.
Half.
I'm the rotten core.
But I will say, because I'm sitting here thinking. And
it goes to how again, as they were being raised, that group that was taught that everyone is a winner, no one loses,
right?
Everyone can do
participation
trophies, and no, I'm sorry,
we didn't get that.
Everyone deserves an equal opportunity. Not everyone is going to be the best at every single endeavor. You're going to find things which you're good at, which you're bad at. You will lose and expect to lose and just pick yourself up and find something else or work hard to make yourself better.
Right. That
generation was not raised like that.
No.
Social promotions, it goes to the core of education. It goes to the attitudes. No, none of that. So that's what I can't say we had. I wasn't part of creating that mess. That's what was created. And now that's what we have.
Yeah. And we just got this, someone was explaining to me, and this is where I believe the transition is happening to being a crotchety old man. Someone was explaining to me an Uber pool. And I said, what?
Uber pool?
Uber pool. So, Uber.
Of course.
You dial it up on your app.
Oh, like a Uber rideshare type thing?
Right.
Let's all get together, call Uber. The one poor guy has to pick 5 or 6 different people to pick up and then deliver them to 5 or 6 different locations.
Right. And the millennial was explaining that to me, and I was just sitting there like, what? I said, wait, don't you call your cab and they take you to wherever you want to go?
Right.
And it's not that, hey, you call your cab and there's 4 other stops before you potentially.
Right. Like at the train station.
And how are you okay with this? And how much money are you saving?
No, how much money are you spending? Because you're
still spending.
Yes.
You're right. But maybe you aren't spending as much, or
there's got to be some financial reason not to. But there's so many different things. Like you said earlier, they are definitely more a sharing group, and there's nothing wrong with that. Probably a more social group. I know. When I hit 17, couldn't wait to buy a car.
Right.
I was like, why? Because I want my own personal mobility. I want to be able to buy my own car.
To be in control.
With my own money.
Right.
and go
your own
come
insurance
and go when I want to.
Yes.
My own insurance.
With everything. So when
Yes.
mom and dad,
Yes.
I guess, you know, you sit here and like I said, I could be the angry old guy. I can see it. Get off my lawn. I can see it.
You can see it happening.
No, I really do. You
Yeah.
know, like I sit here and I'm like, I'm becoming my dad.
Becoming your dad. Yes, you
I'm
are.
like, get off my lawn! And what are you guys doing? Why are you coming over here with these
Right.
clothes to wash in the washing machine?
But see, even back then, you didn't have that type of attitude.
Right.
It just didn't happen. So I mean, I think I'd be curious to see what the next generation is centered around.
Okay.
The group that the millennials create and raise. What's that group going to be like?
So I wanted to lead in with this topic. This is Late Night Parents with Rich and Ted. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. With voting. Millennials and voting.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the biggest bracket. That's like the biggest quadrant of voters that we're coming up on now because,
Right.
believe it or not, we blink our eyes. I mean, it's going to take us maybe a couple blinks. But we're going to be in that older bracket.
Already there. Don't tell anyone, but
You
yes.
know, okay. Maybe you've accepted it. I just haven't accepted
Well,
it.
because I got a couple of years on you.
You know, I mean,
That's all.
but so, and my issue was with this millennial that I was having a discussion with.
Mm-hmm.
And they always like, oh, you like to browbeat us. And you always like to, and you always mention millennial. I said, okay, you're under 30, 34, 35
Right.
years old.
Right.
Okay. But I go back to it, Rich, because the one thing that bothered me was, okay, if you had to share something, you have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to go live in a micro apartment,
You have no problem.
You have no problem. You want to order food, you
Right.
have no problem.
Right?
You order Uber, no problem.
No problem.
You want to watch your Netflix,
No problem.
getting out and vote.
Problem.
Why?
It's a good question. I think, and this is purely speculation. There could be some sense of disenfranchisement, like, okay, all the old farts out there, we can't make a difference. But I'd be kind of surprised to see if, those numbers really hold true, because this millennial generation also seems to be vocal about the things they believe in. Let's look at, tragedies. The David Hogg and the group fighting against,
Oh yeah.
against gun issues. Granted, that was one thing they really, really stuck together about, but they seem to be pretty vocal about things like that. But on the flip side of that statement is, I think what's happening is as we get farther and farther away from when we had major global issues.
Mm-hmm. I'm
talking, gold democracy versus communism, socialism, and all that. I was reading a study not long ago, and I'm not even going to try to remember percentages.
Okay.
But they, always doing surveys about, do you think a socialist government is okay? Generalized questions like that with numbers of questions, but which really identify that. Same questions asked of younger groups, say 20 years ago, and they might have been like 10% thought it was okay. Same questions asked 5 years ago, it was like 30% say it's okay. So I think as we get farther away from those who actually did the fighting, and the parents and grandparents who said no, we were out there, holding the guns and shooting these guys who were coming at us, and this is what the world would have been like. And you have so many groups who just saying things coming out. Oh, like let's just go radical, like the Holocaust didn't exist,
Right.
or forgetting about Hitler, and just they're shielded from all these things, which again is, well, we raised this group. But I remember, and I'm going off on tangents.
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
remember in junior high school,
Okay.
social studies,
Okay.
looking at the videos of the atrocities as they were filmed, again, during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't show any of these things in school because they might scare someone.
Right.
No, let them see the truth. This is how it was, and this is what we have to, as a general society, stop. That's, a very focused example, but that's the kind of thing that's changing. You go into some history books, and it might be in certain areas of the country where it's a little different, but words like slavery aren't even written in the book. They'll put in the books, and this is, I've seen the book. Oh, the black people were brought over as volunteer workers, and we're here to assist and help the people build the country. No. Let's be real. And it's, things are cyclical. Are we going to have yet another major confrontation amongst societies, U.S. versus someone else, to make people think, make these groups realize, how we're living might actually be something good or worth fighting for, or they just need to be exposed to the issues the way they really stand?
I will say I'm all for free health care, open access to health care.
Nothing is free.
Open access to health care.
Yep.
I'm open to the idea of, quote unquote, a free education.
Yep. Go ahead.
But my rebuttal to it is someone has to pay for this.
Someone has to pay for it.
And as I see it more and more, that someone is us.
It has always been us.
Right.
Except now we're in talking about education, we're in a situation rather than a state, we're in a situation where education costs are just so astronomical. I mean, I know when I was college age and getting ready to go, a private college, which one of my sons went to, was $6,000.
Right.
Okay, and we're only talking the 80s. We're not going back into the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
$25,000 now.
I was going to say it was $6,000. Now it's $36,000.
Yeah. It might be this. It was that $25,000 8 years ago. Okay. And as everyone seems to recognize now, all this debt burden is going on to students. The parents,
of course,
we can't afford to save that kind of crazy money anymore. But we do what we can. But a lot of the debt burden is going on the students. Or I know just about every parent I talk to says, "All right, I'll help them or foot the bill for the first 4 years. After that,
you're on your own. You're on your own."
And unfortunately, it's not like it was, heck, not even when I was that age, but the period where high school diploma was good enough to get you a working, decent job. That's long gone. And then there's like, all right, so you got to get your associates. That's long gone.
That's long gone.
Now, and we're almost past the point where just a bachelor's is good enough to get a good job. Now it's like, oh, you got to have a master's and blah, 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 or, that plus just to get your foot in a good door.
Right.
And, now you hear also things being talked about. Well, so we have this glut of highly educated people who couldn't even change a tire on their car.
No.
And we don't have people out there to help fix said cars and said freezers.
I've said for the longest time, and I was having this conversation with my buddy Eric. We've been friends since the 80s. And we said, it has to be, you got to get into service.
Yep.
You got to get into a service-based job. Why? Yep. That's the one thing that isn't being cut. Everything else is being offshored. Correct. AI is taking over, or it's been automated. But when it comes down to, you still need mechanics.
You still need electricians.
HVAC techs. I mean, there's still
plumbers.
Certain services that you still need. And you probably always will need.
Right. Services that you can't pick up a device and order a new one.
Right.
And that's it.
Right. And then
you
that's
can't replace
it.
the plumbing in your home with a click to pick your favorite vendor.
No. No. That's where the focus needs to go, or that's where the focus has been going. I like to believe.
Yeah, you hear more people saying, we need to bring shop class back to school.
Yes.
And totally. I mean, I remember shop class.
You remember shop class.
And home economics.
Yes.
I remember
home
cooking,
improvement.
Worked with wood, did drafting.
Yes.
Baked cookies.
All that's gone. It's all gone.
That's crazy.
It's gone. You know, it's so funny because social studies.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for it on my son's portfolio, his
Right.
breakdown.
Right.
It was humanities was there,
Okay. Humanities.
and I said,
Nice title.
"That's a nice title."
Yeah.
I'm like, but where's like the global history? Where's like the,
Right.
oh, that's humanities.
Okay.
I said, okay, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I will leave it right there. Common Core. Ugh.
I still need someone. Just because you mentioned Common Core,
Mm-hmm.
I still need someone to explain to me what old math was, because we learned new math. They
Yes.
called it new math,
Right.
and I do remember my mother saying, "That's not how we did it."
That's not how we did it.
I remember hearing that.
Let me
So
tell
these
you.
kids are hearing the same thing, but no one could ever tell me how they used to do it.
No.
So I want to know what old math was before new math, which is now being trying to pushed out by Common Core, which is ridiculous.
Last bit on education is,
Yes.
so I have a 6th grader who gets online homework.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I've been looking for the printouts.
Right.
So I have been writing his teachers to say, okay, he comes home,
Right.
there's no printouts. So we had to go back and forth because there was parent-teachers night and everything. So finally went up there and was like, where's the physical printouts?
We don't do that anymore.
We don't do that anymore.
Right.
I said, okay, so when he needs to study or reinforce this little 8-question assignment that you gave him online,
Mm-hmm.
how do we reinforce this?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I got a nice smile
And a blank stare.
and a blank stare.
Does he have real textbooks?
He does.
Okay.
He does.
That's not going yet.
That's not going yet, but it's on the way because I can tell you, my daughter, all of her textbooks are on her Chromebook.
Okay. I'm okay with that because at least it's, you're reading, so that's fine as long as they're giving out the majority, and it should cost the school less, things like that, and materials, and so okay.
Okay. I guess.
But I understand you want a book.
I want a
You
book.
them to have a book to read.
I want a book, a physical book.
Mhm.
That's. I mean, I guess that's too much to ask for. This is Ted and Rich with Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Big shout outs to our friends from all over the globe, from New York to Cali to Florida to the UK. Big shout out to 9-0 in Missouri and Helium Radio in, I'm going to say Clearwater, Florida.
Clearwater. Helium Radio. Thank you for listening.
Going to have conversation with them tomorrow. But
Okay.
I guess there's a couple of topics I want to get to. One, this show, we're going to name it Post-Election Blues because we had an election.
Yes, we did. Midterm elections.
Midterm election. More than 100 million people voted.
For midterm election, that's huge.
It's huge.
And what we're saying, maybe 101 million, if you depend on what ballots are being hidden and recounted and things like that.
That's
I
kind
know.
of crazy. But Florida is Florida. Broward County is Broward County. Things that happened 19 years ago may just happen again.
Some things never change. It's not a chat. It's just a full ballot now.
Right. So the governor, that race and the Senate race down in Florida being recounted. Ballots are being recounted. Ballots are just sitting out.
Recalling his concession speech. I'm not saying I quit. I did not lose. We're going to recount everything
How do you feel about
by
that?
hand. See, and I don't know. I mean, if it was that close, if it's within 1% is a mandatory recount?
0.05.
If it was
Or
that close,
0.005. It
If
was
it's
less
that
than
close,
1%. Come on.
you do a recount,
You do a recount.
and that's all there is to it.
It was like, what, 20,000 votes?
Right.
Come on.
You do the recount. and
8
that's
million
it.
people voted in Florida.
Now, regardless of how it turns out, I would always be suspicious if on recount suddenly there's this big change in either direction. That's
Well,
always just suspicious.
they're finding sealed
This box that didn't even get counted.
That didn't even get counted.
That's a problem.
They're finding them.
And as long as that box isn't 80% either way.
And
okay.
They're saying that people are, believe it or not, got a text from Dr. Michele. She said, don't call it post-election blues. She said it's called a wake-up call.
Dr. Michele, why don't you call us?
You know?
Call in right now, Dr. Michele, and talk about it for a bit. You know we'd love to hear from you.
Last thing I heard was Dr. Michele went Hollywood.
She is. She's out there all over the globe. She's hosting events. She's
different time zones.
And
Come
Fit
on.
Doc branded everywhere. Just remember the little guys, that's all.
I know. That's what we asked for. Come on. Florida is Florida. Georgia. So you had that guy, what's his name? Brian Kemp?
Yeah, the Secretary of State managing his own election.
Come on. Talking about moving the goalpost.
It just looks dirty.
It really looks dirty.
It just looks dirty. And,
Come on.
And it was brought up before the election. Like, you don't want to do this.
So tell me this much. You see this going on. Everyone sees this going on.
Right.
Why is it being underreported? And the second part to it is, why was 93-year-old former President Jimmy Carter the only one to speak on it?
Because Jimmy doesn't care. Jimmy doesn't have to care.
He's the only one to say, hey, you might need to recuse yourself or resign
For the election.
Because you can't be in this role overseeing this while you're
running for it.
Come on.
So does that, at some point, and I'm sure these are the discussions, does that invalidate the election? Do you have to call a new one?
Well,
what do we do? What happens?
If between those two candidates, if neither one gets 50%,
right,
then it's a runoff again. They have the next election. I mean, they have their next. I'm not sure what the next day is going to be. If it's going to be in February or if it's going to be sooner, but they are going to
do it again.
They do it one more time. It's like Ali Frazier.
It sounds like it's probably the best thing to do anyway. Just say, this is what we have to do. Too many questions, too many concerns.
Right.
Re-election. And that's it.
But then, even with that, whomever wins, they're going to have an issue.
It's always going to be tainted.
It's never going to be cut and dry.
Right. Someone's always going to be able to say, you didn't really get it the first time around, either way.
So question for you, would you call it a blue wave or a red wall? They picked up 32 seats.
It's more blue wave.
32 congressional seats.
Yes.
Hundreds of local legislators.
Taking over local, like 300.
Right. So hundreds.
I won't call it a blue tidal wave.
Okay.
But definitely a blue wave. We've seen, as you indicated, at the state level, many places have gone more Democratic. You've got more states now. I think the number was prior to the election, was it about somewhere between 7 and 10 states that had, we'll say, the trifecta, of government, all the local state branches of one party or another. So for like Democrats had like 7 before, they picked up like another 7 or 8. Republicans had about 23, I think the number is. They lost a few. So we see a wave. You see a blue wave, and I know we called it. We said, this is going to be a stand against the present administration.
Right.
And what the Republicans really saw was females. Said, nope, not doing it, not voting for him or his party.
Right.
And how could they not have seen this coming?
You had to. I think this amount of women now as our newly elected officials, or in January when they're sworn in, this is a good thing for America.
Oh, totally.
This is a good thing for America. There was a story that came out about Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you saw that video.
I did not see the video, but I read the story.
It was kind of eerie because, don't get me wrong, from time to time I do watch Fox,
right?
Because I try to get my taste of all of them.
Be well rounded.
I will say Tucker Carlson is a terrible person.
Okay.
However, the folks showed up to his house chanting he's a racist scumbag, and they broke his front door, and his wife was inside.
See, no, I can't say things I'd want to say just because it would come off wrong.
Right.
Beyond the fact that's crossing the line. I mean, we have the incident that Tucker Carlson had at the restaurant,
right,
with his daughters and someone who allegedly harassed his daughter. And he was very verbal, as I think any parent would be. If we'll believe his side of the story,
right,
he was very verbal against the alleged harasser,
right,
as any parent would be. And, of course, if it's the other side, then if he was just obnoxious and picking on a person who is already known to him to have been not something that someone from Fox News or who takes his position would be friendly to.
Right.
But with all that, yeah, you want to pick it. He's still a private person. He's not a public official. But he's a newscaster. He puts himself out there. He's got a huge mouth. So
he does.
If you're going to talk the talk, be prepared to walk the walk.
Like I said,
someone shows up and breaks into the door. No, you've gone too far, and now you should be prosecuted. I don't care what someone has said. You should be prosecuted now.
Well, no one was prosecuted, and we've seen this where Mitch McConnell is either home or a restaurant where we've seen
being harassed.
We've seen this,
and I think it is that pattern now because people are not being held accountable for their actions.
Correct.
It's being almost signed off on or
it
allowed.
Is.
It's like, oh no, but because he's of that viewpoint, it's okay for you to get loud and rowdy with him. No, and I do think if it was the reverse, they'd be screaming and yelling.
Well, you got a commander-in-chief that's off the rails.
Completely and totally.
And he co-signs that behavior.
Yes.
So
what do you think, talking about commander-in-chief being off the rails? And we've seen that, there is not a full three sides of, judicial, executive, and
legislative.
Thank you. Doesn't have it anymore.
No.
So what's going to happen for the next 2 years?
They're going to be in his stuff.
Does anything get done now? Do we sit in pure quagmire?
I think it's going to be, I think the word of the day was gridlock.
Gridlock, yeah, it's beyond gridlock.
But
he'll be yelling and screaming.
He'll be yelling and screaming. He'll blame the Democrats, just as he blamed them before when they were in control of everything.
Right.
He said, we can't get any votes from any of the Democrats and blah, 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 blah. Now, they're going to be in his stuff.
And now he can't even push anything through.
No, not at all.
Now, do you think
he will get his judges? He'll
get his judges. Yes,
he'll get his judges.
Yes,
he will.
Feel better, RBG.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the phone rings before we even get into our last segment, which was kind of dark because of these mass shootings.
Another one. Speaking of mass shootings, here we are again.
I think we have a caller on the line.
We have a caller, so I'll hold on to the thought because I see super producer Brian back there about to put someone on the line with us. I think
working his magic.
I think we will hear a voice from the past. Hello?
Or potentially a voice from the future. Will she be handing out cars?
Oh, and you get a car, and you get a car.
you get a trip, and you get a trip.
There we go.
Well,
oh my goodness. Who is this? I think I saw her on TV.
Is this Ted?
Oh
and
my
is this
goodness.
Rich? How are you guys doing? I felt the need to reach out because no one had reached out to me.
She's gracing us with her presence. Oh my goodness!
That one fly. Go right over that one.
I have been sitting here waiting for the car to pick me up.
Oh, see. See, she's got cars picking her up.
Of
now.
course. Just one question: what time zone are you currently in, Dr. Michele?
I'm in Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Just for the day, for the evening?
Until this weekend.
Until the weekend.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Dr. Michele,
Well,
how have you been?
No. In all seriousness, though, I was invited to Curacao for a tea talk.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm headed there on Friday for the weekend.
Very nice.
Yes. So I just text you all a link for an island that's like 15 miles off of Curacao that one of the ladies there, Sabina, is saying that we can go there to have a retreat. So, you're among the know now.
Oh.
You're the first to know. That's where we might be headed to.
Mermaidboattrips.com.
Climb Curacao.
All right.
That's right.
That sounds nice.
That's right. So everybody now knows that you've been invited, so I don't want to hear any word when it becomes the time that you need to board the plane.
So you say the car's going to pick us up?
Well, right now, Allison and I, we have to do a recon visit just to make sure everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do it either 2019 or 2020.
Okay. That's plenty of time.
That's a great life.
So I'm giving both of you more than enough time that you might even decide to bring the whole family.
That's a great life to just be able to say, we're going to do a recon.
Right.
We're going to stop what we're doing in our daily lives.
And go take a look.
And just to go take a look.
Let me make sure that they make the Mai Tais properly.
Well, somebody has to do it.
Someone's
got to
do it.
If we go firsthand.
It's
and
rough life.
Allison has really great taste, and she's been a guest on the show multiple times.
Yes, she has.
She's even co-hosted with me when the two of you have left us out to sea by ourselves. So,
oh my goodness.
We figured, if we go missing in action for a few weeks, maybe months, that eventually you guys will reach out to us, but it didn't work, so.
We see you. You are so busy. You're posting all over social media, all the things you have going on. We know that you're well taken care of.
Of course.
Oh, goodness. Well, the sermon at church today, Reverend Dugan said, was, speak your truth.
Mm-hmm.
So my truth is that I missed you guys so much that I was like, let me just reach out and see if you guys miss me too.
Of course we do.
And by the way, you kept it a secret until after the fact, basically. Congratulations on running the New York Marathon one more time.
Oh yeah, that was a huge secret because I didn't even know I was going to run it for sure.
Oh my goodness! Congrats.
Thank you very much, very much. Yeah, that was a serious, fun walk / walk some more.
But you finished. You finished. You have that medal.
Oh yeah, I finished.
So,
I finished. I felt really good. I didn't cramp up like the first time I ran. As soon as I got in the car, I just cramped up and everything, and it was just really intense cramping, like a 20 out of a 10.
Oof.
This time I felt good. I came home, did my ice bath, and back to work the next day.
Okay. She's still out there.
Yeah,
Iron
but
woman.
I do miss you guys. I am feeling the brunt of the election because even I had stayed up Tuesday night to see how everything was turning out. And I think finally I gave up and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed. And when I got to work Wednesday, patients coming in, blood pressure elevated, headache.
Wow.
Everyone's been really upset as to how things have transpired, outside of New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the main ones were Florida,
Georgia,
Maryland,
Yep.
and Georgia. So I'm feeling the effects of that because I know been jealous in Maryland through the NAACP, and
that was a dirty campaign out there in Maryland.
Across.
Yes.
Specifically out there in Maryland. I mean, some of the stuff that was just coming up, I'm like, but I guess everything's up for whatever, because that's when you get into running for an election, it's a dirty business.
Politics is dirty business.
You know.
I know what I did for this for this election. I was like, all right, after casting my vote, I didn't even look at the news. I avoided it. I figured, you know what? I'll find out the next morning. Whatever happens, happens. I've played my part. I'm not going to sit there and look at the TV and say, oh, and this changed. Oh, and he's losing. Oh, wait, he's winning. Oh, no, forget all that. It's going to happen, and you act accordingly after the fact.
I casted my vote.
And then we're still not sure what's going on.
Right.
Days later.
I casted my vote
at
6:03 a.m. Because
but this is like an example of just really making people aware that every vote does count.
Of course.
I know there are thousands of people who didn't vote, who could have voted, but just didn't take the time to get it done. And unfortunately, those are the ones that are going to be affected by the impact of their lack of action.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to go back to, and I think I might have said this a year or 2 years ago, our former mayor Michael Bloomberg, said, if you don't vote, then shut up.
Right.
And it's apropos, because you're sitting here, here's your option to exercise your right, and you don't do it. You're sitting on the couch because there's a little rain outside, or the weather has changed, or whatever the case is. You know, stop it. Get out there, go do what you got to do, and then you can talk the talk. And then you can post your little picture on Facebook. Hey, I voted.
Hey, I did mine for a day. Absolutely.
You know, come on.
You know, that could bring up whole new conversations of our method of voting here in the United States versus how they do it in some other countries. Because in some ways, if, you know, especially with the two-party system, your vote kind of, if you don't vote for the guy who wins, your vote is lost.
It is,
basically.
totally.
Some countries have actually methods of kind of counting the votes in more than once. I think it's called single vote transfer system, something like that. It's either Ireland, I think, that does it nationally, and there are a few actually states here in the U.S. which are experimenting and using this form of voting. Which, as a very quick description, let's just say that you're voting for a candidate. There are 5 candidates who are running for a specific post, and when it comes time to vote, you don't just vote for the one you want to win. You say, all right, here's the person I would like to win.
Okay,
here's my first choice. Then you fill in who your second choice would be, and then your third choice, and your fourth choice, and let's say there were 5, then your fifth choice. Votes are tallied up. If no one wins with a 51% pure majority, they go to the cast votes. They look at the bottom of the list, those who have no numerical chance of winning.
Okay.
Take them off the ballot, and then the ballots that were cast for that person, they go to, all right, who was selected to be the number 2 choice from the ones who didn't vote for that group who was incapable of winning, and you add those to the groups.
Okay. And
then you take the bottom one off of that. Do the same thing. All right. If again you don't get a full 51% winner, and you end up so that, all right, so I might not have voted for the guy who came out number 1 but didn't get the full percentage, but my vote isn't lost because now my second choice could possibly have a chance of getting elected. And they've actually had elections over there which turned the tides because they had to go down to the count, like 10 counts deep, to just tally everything up and figure out who do the people.
How long does something like that take?
It was a full day because actually it's also paper ballots. So they go back, count them, bring them out, count them again, and it was an all day thing. So they're at starting early in the morning at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, recount upon recount about recount. Now, of course, over there the population isn't nearly as huge as it is here, but I think it might have been either Santa Barbara or there's one town in California where the local elections, they've started using this process, and it actually has turned the tides on some elections that didn't get full immediate majority.
I just hope the local politicians in New York open New York like the other 20 states that are right now where you can cast your ballot early.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
But I'm perfectly okay with that, but I also believe everyone should have a voter ID. There should be standard voter ID.
I think people, well, yes, no. I mean, by now everybody should have some type of ID, but what if sometimes we misplace things?
Well, look for it. You know the election's coming. It's not a secret. If you're missing it 2 weeks before, get your replacement. Sorry.
But think about the people who show up at the airport and they don't have their passport.
Go home, get your passport.
Go home and get your passport.
Yeah, and then that's how I missed my flight.
See? You won't forget your passport again, will you?
This is not helping. Just not.
Just press the home button to get to the
No, but what else do you have going on there, Dr. Michele? What's new in your world?
Well, I officially have high school students.
Oh, wow, that's right.
So the boys are in 9th grade.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
And they'll be playing JV basketball.
Nice.
And last week, their AAU team, they didn't even make it to the marathon because Scott was coaching them in Connecticut to a championship, a zero-gravity championship.
Wow.
That went into double overtime, so I missed that. So at least we all came back as champions, right?
Good. Nice. Congratulations to the boys.
But, yeah, so just, really working on developing the Fit Doc brand, and we had a really successful retreat. Everybody is talking about it, wanting to know where we're going to be going next year for 2019. So I'm in the process of planning our next year's events. And looking forward to seeing more of both of you guys, either locally or internationally, wherever we go.
That sounds good.
We'll find a way to take you up on one of these invitations. We will.
I am really holding you all to that.
And now you have a recording to support you also.
Right.
Because this show is
You said
recorded.
a recording?
Yes, a recording. These shows are recorded.
You've got proof. You've got evidence.
And the podcast will be available tonight with our confirmations on it.
You all are so funny. But I mean, what I'm really trying to do is just try and keep everyone healthy, because I don't know if you read the study that came out a couple of weeks ago that was in JAMA, that was done at the Cleveland Clinic. They had over 120,000 patients. And the research shows what I've been talking about all this time is it's better that you're proactive about your health than you sit around and wait.
Yes.
That it is 500 times or 500% worse for you to be not exercising and being unfit than having hypertension, diabetes, or smoking.
Wow. Well, as you say,
500% worse.
You have always said, just get out and move. Get out, be active. You do have to be responsible for your own health. Do something, right?
And this just seals the deal. So it's worse. And people think like, oh, it's bad that I have hypertension and I'm a smoker. Yes, it's bad, but what's worse is if you don't have any of those issues and you don't exercise.
Right.
So all we're asking for is 150 minutes of movement. And I know in my absence that both of you have been doing everything that you're supposed to do to maintain your level of health and wellness.
You got it.
Oh, you know us.
And that's why I said that.
Uh-huh. Well, you know my wife. She won't let me, lay around and do too little for too long. So.
So I know my two buddies. They're not necessarily in the gym grinding, but they're being as active as possible because they are trying to create memories for their children.
Absolutely.
And their spouses.
Absolutely.
Because they want to be happy, healthy, and whole.
Absolutely. And we know you love us, Dr. Michele. That's all. That's
of
you
course
care.
I do.
That's
and
all
the
we
love
know.
is
that's
mutual.
Why I called you.
And love is mutual. Hey,
Okay,
Dr. Michele, you got to give us best ways, since we don't know the next time you're going to join us. Give us the best ways to get in contact with you.
Well, the best ways to get in contact with me, Facebook and Instagram, is Fit, F-I-T-D-O-C, Fit Doc Michele with one L, last name Reed, R-E-E-D. So that's Fit Doc Michele Reed on Facebook and Instagram. And on the internet, it's Fit, FITDOC.com. That's fitdoc.com. And the office, if you need a family practice facility to come to, we have the location in Garden City, New York, and in Rosedale, Queens. The number is 516-794-2200. That's 516-794-2200. And I'm looking to seeing everybody soon.
Spoken like a true radio personality.
All right.
Dr. Michele, thank you so much for calling us. It's been great hearing from you. Glad everything is going on well. You hear the music. It's time for us to go.
We are out.
We're out, everyone.
Alrighty.
Thanks for listening.
Have a
Have a
great
great
week.
week. You too.
Okay.
Take care.